Coming up after the break, the financial risks you take when you invest and the goals that you try to achieve. We're going to look at how you can balance the two when we come back. Stay with us. Well, you're willing to take risks and make money in the market, but you also have your child's college tuition to think about. So how do you balance your appetite for risk with your financial goals? Joining us from Los Angeles to explain is Geordie Crossan, the president of NBS Financial Services. He's also a certified financial planner. Geordie, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Ali.
We cover so many different aspects of financial planning. This, I got to tell you, this one really interests me because there are investors who invest on both sides of this equation. And let's talk about the two sides. One is your goals. The idea that you have this to achieve. You've got to educate your kids, you want to retire, you want to do a list of 5 things. The other one is risk-based investing. The idea that you stick to your risk tolerance and you come up with an investment portfolio that mirrors that little pie chart that you get that tells you should have this much in this type of fixed income and this much in equities and this much in these types of equities. Fundamentally, they are two different types of investing. Do they get you to the same goal?
Well, not always. And historically, Ali, that many people develop portfolios solely based upon their risk profile or temperament to assuming risk. And we need to go a step further. We need to look and drill down to what are the true goals and objectives that we're trying to implement and develop strategies to achieve those objectives. So risk is one component of this process, but the objectives are as important, if not more important, to this overall process.
Are they mutually exclusive, or can the two really be brought together very well?
The two can be brought together. That's why in this process we need to understand risk and an investor's comfort level for risk. But in addition to that, we need to look at their objectives. And what are their hopes? What are their dreams, their aspirations? What is truly important to them? And taking the two in combination, develop strategies to achieve those same objectives with the least amount of risk. Not always do investors have to take the maximum tolerance of risk to achieve those same objectives.
Okay, so what exactly do you do? The first thing, we often talk about risk tolerance on this show. People can figure out themselves, or they can go to a financial planner or even a brokerage. Everybody has a way of figuring out risk tolerance, and they've become relatively scientific, that if you took it at 5 different places, you'd probably come up with a fairly similar breakdown of how your investments should look. What do you do at that point?
Well, one of the problems with just looking at the risk tolerance is investors answer those questions in the abstract. Loss is expressed as a percentage of portfolio. But in reality, when the money is managed and invested, loss is no longer expressed as a percentage, but in dollars and cents. And in many cases, investors underestimate their tolerance for risk. So we need to weigh risk tolerance versus the attainment of those objectives. What's important to them, develop strategies to achieve those same objectives with the least amount of risk. Because at the end of the day, Ali, I mean, that's how we need to measure investment success.
Right.
Investment success should be measured by the attainment of those goals and objectives.
Let me outline this. Let's say my risk tolerance says that I should be 75% in equities in various fashions and 25% in fixed income. You're basically saying that there are many outcomes to that same breakdown. In other words, I can invest with maintaining my risk tolerance, but have it in types of investments that are going to get me to where I need to be versus being fairly passive about it and just breaking it down and letting it sit there.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, we have tools and techniques and programs that help us understand or quantify the risk in portfolios and the ability of one to achieve those same objectives. So we actually test various asset allocation policies and make specific recommendation in light of one's objectives.
So
irrespective.
That breakdown that you break it down by with the asset allocation in a way that doesn't ever really compromise someone's actual risk tolerance.
No, I mean, we look at complementary asset classes in some cases that are dissimilar in nature. So we maximize return and minimize risk, but at the same time measuring our success or probability of success for achieving those long-range objectives, be it retirement funding, education, or whatever the case may be. So that's the important and integral part.
Geordie, thanks very much for joining us with us.
Thank you, Ali. Have a great weekend.
Geordie Crossan's a certified financial planner. He's also the president of NBS Financial Services, joining us from Los Angeles.